A couple of years ago, when my sister was in college, her friends and her decided to go to Mexico on their spring break trip. They were so excited for a week of relaxation under the sun, a week away from their worries. But quickly into their trip, they realized that their week was not going to be as perfect as they planned. One night, they decided to go downstairs to the resort bar to enjoy a couple of drinks in each other's presence when a young couple approached them. The young couple was so nice and personable, and they hit it off with my sister's friends immediately. Suddenly, two of my sister's friends felt very ill, and the young couple insisted on taking them back to the hotel room so that they could rest. A couple minutes later, when the young couple did not return, my sister and her friends grew very worried and decided to go check on the young girls. When they got to the hotel room, the young girls were not there, and they grew very worried. They contacted the hotel management, and it's like the young girls vanished into thin air. After a long night of worrying, the hospital nearby called them the next morning and told them that they had the two girls in custody and that those two girls had date rape drugs in their system. The two people that kidnapped them had had a history of kidnapping girls and selling them into a terrible cycle called sex trafficking. Now, the only thing that saved those two girls from being sold into sex trafficking was the fact that one of the girls fell into a coma because of the date rape drugs. The coma was the only thing that saved them because the couple did not want to deal with the girl that had fallen into a coma because that was too much work for them. Now I'm here today because I'm passionate about sex trafficking and how date rape drugs can lead to sex trafficking. I don't want anyone else I know to have to go through what my sister and her friends had to go through. Now, sex trafficking isn't just in movies. It can happen to me, it can happen to you, and it can happen to anyone in this room. Sex trafficking has boomed in the recent years, and that is why this issue is so prevalent and on my mind today. We have to become passionate about sex trafficking so that we can decrease it in the future. We have to know what date rape drugs are and how they affect our bodies and how they can lead to sex trafficking in order to decrease this issue in today's society. Now, as I said earlier, human trafficking has boomed in the recent years, and it's seen here by in 2009 there were just over 4,000 cases per year, but in 2016 there were over 9,000 cases of humans being trafficked into a terrible cycle. Now, today I'm going to be talking about what date rape drugs are, how date rape drugs affect our bodies, and how date rape drugs can lead to sex trafficking, and what predators look for in their victims, and the process of date rape drugs and how it leads to sex trafficking. So, what are date rape drugs? According to the Office on Women's Health, date rape drugs are any substance that can make it easier for a predator to rape, sexually assault, or kidnap an individual. Now, date rape drugs make it possible for the victim to not remember the attack or even being drugged in the first place. The most common date rape drugs are flunitrazepam, or more commonly known as Rohypnol, gamma-hydroxybutyric acid, more commonly known as GHB, gamma-butyrolactone, more commonly known as GBL, and ketamine. Date rape drugs are odorless, colorless, and tasteless, and that's what makes it so critical for people our age to know this, because date rape drugs are so dangerous because of these attributes that they have. And also, date rape drugs can activate symptoms in an individual as quick as 5 minutes, and these symptoms can last up to 12 hours. For example, ketamine can show symptoms in an individual as quick as 5 minutes, and it can go up to 20 minutes for Rohypnol. And these symptoms can last as long as 12 hours for Rohypnol. So now that we know what date rape drugs are, we have to understand how date rape drugs affect our bodies so that we can stop these attacks from happening to people we love and ourselves in the future. So it affects the body depending on the dosage that is received. For example, larger doses will have worse effects on an individual and vice versa. And it also depends on if it's mixed with other substances. For example, if the date rape drug is mixed with alcohol or other drugs, it can worsen the effects on the individual and worsen the symptoms. Now, according to WebMD, the symptoms can range anywhere from the individual being drowsy to the individual not remembering recent events or situations that had happened. And it also leads to loss of muscle tone due to seizure-like behaviors. And date rape drugs can also lead to a slowed heart rate and breathing in the individual that has consumed a date rape drug. And most severely, date rape drugs can lead to a coma, just as it did to my sister's friends. So now that we know how date rape drugs affect the body, we will now understand how date rape drugs can lead to sex trafficking and what predators look for in their victims, and how date rape drugs can lead to sex trafficking. So first of all, the academic journal written by Kogler, Moll, Prebble, and Teti said that they performed this study where they found out that predators will look for not just females. A common misconception of sex trafficking is that it only occurs with females, but that is in fact wrong, and it can happen to male or transgender individuals. Okay, according to the Human Trafficking Center, they reported that yes, a majority of the people that get sold into sex trafficking are women, but there's also a small percentage that can be men too. Now, the academic journal written by the 4 PhD students also noted that the most common age of those being sex trafficked are 18 to 29, and that is our age group. That is why we need to be aware about this issue, because it can happen to any single one of us. And that most of the sex trafficked individuals are from the United States. And finally, the Human Trafficking Center reported that there are between 20 to 37 million people trafficked globally. They're in this terrible system of sex trafficking. That is a large number of people, and we need to be aware about this issue so that we can stop it. So the process of sex trafficking, once the victim has been drugged, they are taken from the current environment with the kidnappers that first drugged them. And then once they're taken from the environment, they're transferred into this bigger system of kidnapping and thrown into this inhumane system. Once the individual's in the system, they get sold to people who buy them for their bodies, and they get abused once they're owned by these people. So today we learned what date rape drugs are, how they affect our bodies, and how these date rape drugs can lead to sex trafficking, and also what the predators look for in their victims and how this process occurs. So I'm here today because I'm passionate about this subject because of what happened to my sister. I don't want anything similar to happen to me or to anyone I love or to any of you. So I want all of you to become as passionate as I am about this subject so that we can learn how to stop this in the future. We have to stop sex trafficking now so that none of us and no one we love gets sold into that terrible system. Thank you. And here's my works cited.